What is up, guys? It's your boy, Mr. Tech Boy. Today we're going to be talking about how Apple is planning to do an online version of WWDC in June, the latest iOS 14 leaks, the latest devices that are going to be announced, including AirPods Studio, iPhone 9, Pixel 4a, and a bunch of other devices and software. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so first off, the huge news of today, or depending on when you're watching this, maybe yesterday, maybe a week ago, I don't know, that Apple is going to be having WWDC in June, obviously, but more importantly, they're going to be doing it online. Now, I can't say the reason, because YouTube doesn't let me say the reason. The thing that is preventing people from holding events is the reason that they're not holding WWDC inside of a large, crowd. They're gonna have it online, and so they're advertising it as a new, innovative way, and all new, and like they planned this all along, and this has been their plan, and they've just had this great genius mindset. And to be honest with you, I don't think so. The picture that they used for the, I guess, the hint, it's never really a hint because it never really means anything, but the hint that they used kind of just looks like 3 stickers on a MacBook. It was kind of a boring hint. They've had, more interesting hints in the past, but they heard that it was going to have to be online because of the thing. They just kind of put something together to announce how they were going to deal with it, and that's how they dealt with it, basically. And I guess it worked. It's going to be interesting to have developers have to learn how to develop their apps over a conference, online, over a video, over a keynote that's played over online. It might be a little bit weird having, and this is iOS 14, and then there's no one clapping in the audience, and then you just see a big row of empty seats. Like, how are they going to do that? The Steve Jobs Theater and everything, they all have rows of seats. They can't really just remove them just for this. So it's going to be interesting. Definitely going to be something worth watching. Depending on what day it is, if it's on like a Saturday or Sunday, I'll live stream it. Because hey, since no one's going to be invited, people like me, more important, I can tell you everything that was announced and stuff like that. Because if there's not going to be big YouTubers and big celebrities and blah 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 that are going to be there, and big media, then that can't report on it, I can report on it, and I have just the exact same advantage as them. Now, just a little bit of speculation. So we do know that a ARM MacBook is rumored to come out by next year. Apple is switching to ARM. ARM is basically chips that run on different type of hardware than what Intel and AMD are doing. ARM is what is used in smartphone processors, tablet processors, and Apple has seen incredible performance on their iPhones and iPads, the A12X and the iPad Pro being as powerful as some $2,000 MacBooks for an $800 device. So they've seen a lot of power in their devices, and they might start to reflect that in the MacBooks. The MacBooks will start to be more powerful, then they'll bring it to the other devices like the iMac, and eventually the entire Mac line will go to ARM. Now the thing is that since Macs already run on x86 hardware, since they use Intel chips, they're going to have to change the software. Some apps won't be supported at first, but getting to the point, this image that we're seeing looks like a 12-inch MacBook. If you look at the colors, you look at the Apple logo, it doesn't really look like a Space Gray MacBook Pro or a Space Gray MacBook Air. It does really look like a 12-inch MacBook. And we're rumored to see Apple return the 12-inch MacBook that they discontinued because it was kind of useless, kind of underpowered, kind of a waste of money. They might bring it back, put a ARM chip, since it doesn't have to be as high demanding, and it could be an extremely good battery life device, extremely thin since it's using an ARM chip and they don't require as much cooling, and this could be Apple's first ARM device on a Mac. So this could launch 2020 or 2021. That's a whole separate thing. I'm just theorizing that this hint has to do with it. If they do announce that they're switching to ARM at this event, which would make sense since developers have to get their apps ready for that, it would probably just be the announcement that they're switching to ARM, not the announcement of an actual product. But anyway, so 9to5Mac has basically leaked everything. They've leaked iOS 14, all the new devices. This is basically just what 9 to 5 Mac has leaked from this point out. So basically, iOS 14, we're rumored to see, instead of a grid icon system for the home layout, we're rumored to see Apple Watch style scroll up and down with just apps in a row based on Siri suggestions. Reminds me of a lot of the Apple Watch in that app suggestions that they have. That sounds really weird. If it's good, I would probably use it, because the thing about WWDC is it doesn't matter if you have the latest iPhone, the previous iPhone, if you're not planning to upgrade, it doesn't matter. iOS supports about the last 5 or 4 years, and if you have a 5-year-old iPhone, or if you're not planning on upgrading this year and you still have an 11 Pro, you can get the latest update. If you have a Mac from like 5-10 years ago, you can get the latest update. If you have an Apple Watch, oh man, my Apple Watch is too old. But it's just, that's why I love WWDC, because a lot more people can get excited about the new stuff, because it's gonna apply to a lot more people. It's not just gonna be like, hey, there's a new product out, you can buy it or you can not buy it. So more people get to appreciate the new hardware and the new software. Another thing is that the iPhone 9 was rumored to come out in March. In fact, all of the devices like the AirPods Pro, Apple AirTag were all rumored to come out in March. But since being a little over speculative here, since in the WWDC newsroom report, they said that they were going to be announcing new products and software. I'll link the newsroom report in the link below. If I don't remember to, remind me in the comments. They said that they're going to be announcing new products, and it's going to be huge. So maybe all the stuff that we thought was going to be announced in March, iPhone 9, which is basically just the iPhone 8, but with a newer processor, Apple AirTags, which is basically a tracking device similar to a tile, and you can place it on your keys, your car, whatever, and you can track it from your phone. AirPods Studio. So AirPods Studio are very similar to Beats Studio, basically just gigantic versions of AirPods that go over your ears. Basically just headphones, over-ear headphones. You guys know what they are. 9 to 5 Mac actually found a hidden icon inside of iOS, and if you don't believe this, they also found AirPods Pro icon before it was even released. You can kind of see how true this is. 9 to 5 Mac has a trustworthiness of about, I would say about 90%. They're accurate most of the time and they get a lot of things right. So I would go with what they're saying. AirPods Studio is not the official name. AirPods Studio is just my guess. AirPods Studio sounds like a good name, sounds like something Apple would do, but it could be something like Pro Pods. It could be anything. It could be anything. They could name it anything they want, and if it's not AirPods Studio, it's Apple's upcoming pair of headphones, rumored to be $400, rumored to have better sound quality than anything Beats has ever made, and rumored to just be really, really good. When you take them off, they're rumored to pause the music like AirPods do. They're rumored to have touch controls on the side. Maybe you can adjust the volume. That sounds really cool. If they're really good, I would consider them. Another thing is watchOS. watchOS is getting a lot of new features. watchOS might be getting things like sleep tracking, or they might be reserved for newer devices. And watchOS is going to be seeing new international watch faces and just a bunch of new stuff for watchOS. In my opinion, I feel like the Apple Watch has come so far from where it was originally that they're struggling to come up with new stuff for the Apple Watch, which isn't a bad thing. It's just that Samsung is adding features now with the EKG about a year later, and they're still lagging behind. No one is really taking on what Apple has done with the Apple Watch. They're only really comparing and winning against, the iPhone and having a fair match to that. But no one has really made a fair match to the Apple Watch or the iPad, so Apple can't really make anything new and revolutionary when they can only make small upgrades unless they have something to compete with, something that they can beat. It's kind of sluggish in a way. Apple Watch Series 6 is rumored to have improved EKG rating with increased accuracy. It's rumored to have potentially a micro LED display, more water resistant and stuff like that. The iPad, like I mentioned, is rumored to be getting a trackpad for the keyboard. I'm not really a big fan of that. I feel like the iPad is supposed to be touch dominant. That's how it was designed. That's how it's always been. It's kind of going to become the Surface at that point. I don't really like that. I don't think that they should have done that. I guess since they don't have anything else to do, I guess it's okay that they're doing that. But okay, so coming from Pine Leaks, I would say Pine Leaks is about 70 or 80% accuracy. We're gonna go with 75. Pine Leaks is saying that the iPhone 12 Pro, the Pro Max or whatever, is going to have a 64 megapixel sensor. What I'm thinking is that the two base models, one is supposed to be 5.8 inches, one is supposed to be 6.1. Those are going to be base, one might be 700, one might be 750. Basically like the 11, very similar to the 11 in camera and a lot of things, but newer processors, newer chips, 5G, stuff like that. The 12 Pro, that's, you know, the 6.1 inch size, will probably have the time of flight sensor, but probably a pretty similar camera setup to the current 11 Pro, just with the new camera setup, new display with 120 hertz, new chip and stuff like that. But what I think is going to happen, and it's kind of based by some sketchy leaks, but there's been enough of that kind of sketchy leaks coming together that I think it's trustworthy at least a little bit, is that this 12 Pro Max is not going to be in the same category as the 12 Pro. The 12 Pro Max is what I think going to be much better than the 12 Pro. We're hearing from Pine Leaks that the camera sensor, the entire camera square module, is going to be getting 15% bigger. All the cameras will be getting larger and much better than the regular 12 Pro. We could see increased optical zoom, and we're rumored to see a 64 megapixel sensor. Another leak is that we're going to be seeing this built-in optical image stabilization built into the sensor, not into the body. Basically that means that potentially we could have optical image stabilization, which basically means when like your phone is shaking a lot, the camera quality will be better. It won't look as shaky. But what that could also mean, as Sony has done on their cameras, not the their phones, but on like the actual gigantic real size cameras, is that they've done this thing called pixel shifting. Now it uses stabilization. It creates a 4x4 grid by moving the sensor in order to create 4 images, combine those 4 images into one gigantic image. My theory is that Apple will actually not be using a 64 megapixel sensor, because from 12 to 64, that's a gigantic jump. My theory is that they're going to be using a 16 megapixel sensor on this 12 Pro Max, and they're going to be using the pixel shifting to kind of create this combination of pictures that combine into a 64 megapixel image. As we all know, megapixels don't mean everything. Galaxy S20 Ultra is losing to 12 megapixel phones when the Galaxy S20 Ultra has a 108 megapixel sensor. Megapixels don't mean everything. Megapixels just mean resolution, but it does not mean the ability to focus, the ability to pick up detail, the ability to let in low light. It just doesn't mean that. It only means resolution. The Galaxy S20 Ultra is not the best camera in a smartphone just because it has the big number, but what I think Apple is doing that's good is they're going to keep the numbers low so they can keep the sensor size really big, so each megapixel is going to be really large compared to something like Galaxy S20 Ultra, but they're going to be able to get that high resolution using the pixel shifting. So the small sensor size, they get to basically keep their cake and eat it too. Get the high resolution, but also get the better sensor that can take better pictures and get better focus, like iPhones have always been able to. Don't lose what iPhones have been able to have over Android phones that have higher megapixels. Because if you think about it, some cheaper phones might have 64 megapixels, but the Google Pixel 4, which has a good camera, Galaxy S20, they've always had 12 megapixels, because higher resolution doesn't mean everything. What's more important than having a high resolution, being able to take a high quality picture that can focus well, that can pick up detail, and that can get better low light. But anyway, kind of went into a little bit of rant there. I think the 12 Pro Max could possibly have 3 or 4 times zoom. The ultra wide and the telephoto are rumored to get better. That's where I'm getting that from. So this Pro Max is probably going to be much better than the 12 Pro. We're hearing some sketchy leaks that one of them will have, only one of the 12 Pros will have a smaller notch. That might be the Pro Max. I'm not saying that means that's correct. I don't think that the smaller notch on only the Pro Max is correct, but I think it shows that Apple is really trying to make this 12 Pro Max a lot better than the regular 12 Pro. What does that mean? I hope that doesn't mean that they're going to go with Galaxy S20 Ultra prices. If you don't know, the Galaxy S20 Ultra is $1,400. That's a very expensive phone. Hopefully Apple doesn't go all the way that high. Maybe they can keep the regular 12 at maybe 700, the 12 Plus or 12 Max at 750 or 800, the 12 Pro at 1000, 1050, and the 12 Pro Max, maybe it could be 1200, 1150, something like that. Just don't go as high as the Galaxy S20 Ultra. Keep it just low enough so that people can still afford this. And yeah, the last thing is the Pixel 4a has been leaked. It's kind of confusing to me how the Pixel 4a was leaked. Basically, they have a billboard that's advertising the features of the Pixel 4a. How does an entire billboard leak? How do you accidentally put up 3 different billboards, and how is that a leak? Did Google do this on purpose? Did they accidentally put up billboards advertising a phone that's not out yet? How does that work? How do you... What are these fake? Maybe these are either photoshopped or these are made by Google, because Google has leaked their own stuff before, so it wouldn't be too out of the ordinary. I think it's one of those two. I do not think that this was a real leak. I do not think that Google didn't intend for this. There is no way that you can put up billboards in multiple places and call it a leak. There is no way. There's no way that you can have an entire billboard be put up, built, whatever, on accident, advertising something. I just don't believe that. But anyway, that's about it for this video. Hope you enjoyed this extremely long and complex series of just random stuff that happened throughout the week, since I record once a week. Gotta compact all this stuff into one single video. I'm happy that I get to be back. I was having issues with Final Cut and I was busy with my life. But yeah, that's all for today's video. Make sure to leave a like, hit the like right below this video. It's right there. Make sure to hit the subscribe, hit the bell, tell your friends. I don't know what you want to do. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I post cool stuff there occasionally. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.